Well, good morning and welcome to the latest session of the Democracy Commission inquiry. And we're very fortunate to be joined by Councillor Harrington and Councillor Gillian Corr of Stockton-on-Tees Borough Council. We're also joined today by various members of the Commission, and I think it would be appropriate for us to introduce you to those members. If Gemma, you'd like to start.
Hello, Gemma Wilson, one of the councillors and member of the Democracy Commission.
Councillor Andrew Portman.
Councillor Andrew Cooper.
Andrew Marchington, Kirklees Council.
The Kirklees Democracy Commission has been established with the laudable aims of looking at what local democracy means to citizens and to the council itself, and looking at the wider ramifications of the current political climate. And I think that obviously we've had a very interesting summer where we've seen the European Union referendum, see significant engagement of citizens in debate about the United Kingdom membership or otherwise, and also that we're seeing significant shifts in the tectonic plates, if you want to call them that, of English constitutional governance. We've seen since 2014 the Conservative coalition government first, now the Conservative government talking about the Northern Powerhouse, the idea of connecting the North better to regenerate the economy, but also regional devolution, which is manifesting itself in various ways, and particularly in city and other regional deals, of course, of which Teesside is one, and the introduction of directly elected mayors. And so this is a significant time, and I think that Kirklees Council should be congratulated for both commissioning this Democracy Commission and also for the four parties who are represented within the council for getting behind the initiative and supporting it so enthusiastically. In many ways, what we're looking at is a sense about how the relationship between the citizen and local authorities is changing, and in many contexts it is not only one in terms of citizenship, in times where government funding is being increasingly limited, and that means councils are having to question about, well, what can they do? You know, what is it still feasible for to do? But also the way in which they communicate with citizens. And I think that it's interesting to have you both here today because you have been recognised for undertaking a number of initiatives which have been groundbreaking in the sense of that they have sought to use digital media and other forms of connecting with citizens and building that sense of a relationship. The first question I'd like to open up really is just get you both to sort of think about, well, what other virtues do you see, or how do you see that in many ways digital mobile technologies provide us with opportunities for councillors to better communicate with citizens, but also in many senses to do democracy different, or to do democracies in ways which complement, supplement existing traditional forms. David.
Okay. Chair, I'd like to thank you. I think that's a good opening, and certainly would like to echo what you have just said. Congratulations to Kirklees Council for being innovative for the work that they've appointed the Commission to do. I think from a personal basis, I agree the political future of democracy, and I've been involved in local government now for 28 years, both a member and as an officer, has changed dramatically in that time, and then going forward it'll change even more. So I think it's right that local authorities are brave enough to actually say, right, this is where we are now, where we want to be in the future. So I think that is brave and well done to Kirklees, and certainly thank you for the invitation over today, and also thank you as well to Carl for allowing me to bring Gillian over. Gillian's my deputy group leader. Gillian followed me. My community I represent in Barwick, split between two wards, east and west. When I moved from the East Ward in 2011 elections to the West Ward, Gillian stood and replaced me over in the East Ward, and was successfully elected and re-elected in 2015. So that's where both of us have come from. But in terms of, you've gone back to your substantive questions, my own feeling is for too long, too many local authorities still think and behave in the way that local authorities always have done, and that is, my view is that local authorities needs to go to the residents, and quite often the local authority expects the residents to go to them. They don't take localism. to the step where they expect too much contact in, and if people, you know, for inquiries such as, for example, I remember a few years ago when I was chair of the Children and Young People Select Committee, we were doing a street review of youth services, and I said, spoke to everyone like this, and I said, right, let's go out into the youth centres to actually see youth centres in action. And the chins, not from members, from officers. What for? We were doing a screening review. Yeah, I know, but we're bringing you the information. No. We want to go out into the community. And I got every single member around that table of all parties totally agree, we'll go out. And the chins from officers drop. Well, we'll have to risk assess it. You know, where are you going to get there? The same as we've got here today. You know, we need, you know, you want a piece of work done, we want to go out, we also want to talk to service users. Oh, we're part of this, we want to talk to them. And I think there's still too much of local authorities expecting people to come to them, not the local authorities outreaching into the communities. And I think the outreach as well needs to change. What outreach is done is good by the local authorities that do some good outreach work, but it needs to be taken from the physical outreach with the paper. And I'm actually, to illustrate this point, can I just hand this sheet on, Chair? I'll just bring this to where it's a code. Oh, sorry, that was my copy, sorry. Apologies. This is a slide which is publicly available. It's from the Tinder Foundation. And this is just a snapshot of the UK, of the offline and online nation. The latest edition, the 2016 version, this will be available, I understand, in December off the website. So I don't know if that's timely for your reporting in. But this is the latest version, snapshot for 2015. So we've got there on the left-hand side, the offline nation, 12.6 million people, and on the online nation is 40 million. And that's where I started from, thinking, well, actually, and even back to 2004, before my group became elected to Stockton Council, the campaign that we went for is local authorities, this is no disrespect to any member around this table today, very good at engaging with people on the door, in the communities and on the doorsteps. But there's people who don't want that engagement, they're online, the lead, and 2004, even in the days of the online forums, the emails, there's still people that lead their lives online, not in traditional methods. And it's those people that I said we need to start reaching. And in 2004 we were using local community forum, one of the PHP forums, and it got an awful lot of traffic back in those days. It's defunct now because obviously social media has overtook that era. But there was the actual domain name still there, inglybaric.com, and it was an exceptionally popular forum, and we all had a presence on that forum, and it was engagement online, dealing with local ward issues, even before we were elected. And I strongly believed that we needed to engage on the doorsteps, in the grassroots of a good, strong local campaign, as well as people that are online. And that has always been certainly my philosophy in going forward. So when Facebook launched Facebook pages in 2007, we very quickly established our own Facebook presence on there, and obviously Twitter for myself and for the group 2008, leading on to various other things. But I strongly believe that services, yes, they need to be traditional to capture the people that always like the traditional methods, but you also need to reach out to digitally to the online community, particularly when, just a few stats I can give you here, 80% of UK adults on a smartphone. Now, those 80% of smartphone owners, 54% of them use social media. So you've got over half of the country using social media. Some of the stats, I'm sure you could go to socioeconomic forums online. There was the online populations of some of these sites. One of them, Facebook, if Facebook was a country, it's third. It's below China and India, above America and the UK and Russia in population terms. So, as local authorities, I think we And I actually think the electoral commission, I've seen a huge shift in them in recent years. They've switched on to things need to be on online, because the people in my ward on the west side are much younger than Jill's East Ward residents. So for that very reason, on the West Ward, my engagement levels are much, much higher, because most of my people I would never ever see at a ward surgery. Hence, my Skype use of social media, of using Skype as a ward surgery tool, has been exceptionally helpful to me. Use of social media, particularly since Twitter has reduced, well, abolished the 140 character limit on direct messaging. I've seen a huge shift of people that would have sent me one tweet, can we talk about this, now to sending me an actual direct message as an email, which from my point of view is fine, because if I need to copy anything from that DM, I just copy and paste it into an email I need to forward on to my local authority to deal with. I have no issues with that. But I feel that local authorities need to recognise, and this is no criticism of any single local authority, but in general, I am not convinced the LGA is the body to do this, because I don't think the LGA fully understand digital, and the team that they had in the LGA for digital no longer exist. You know, I won't name names, but the team that they did have been disbanded. They do have, it's still on their agenda, but somewhere nationally there needs to be a body that recognises that local authorities need to up the game for providing the tools to the members to enable them to be better community advocates in their wards if they want to use digital. And I will say if they want, because Cllrs from the Not Westminster events that I've attended usually annually, I'm sure there's a video clip that you can find on YouTube of John Popham interviewing me back in February, and John asked me quite a close question. He said, do you think all local authority members, when they sign up to be a member, should do digital by default? And I said no, because it's their own personal preference. Now what may be good for my ward, one of my neighbouring wards either side that surround my community wouldn't work, because the levels of digital exclusion are quite high. My community, I think it's less than 8% of my community is digitally excluded. Jill's ward, neighbouring ward is only a little bit higher, it's about 15%, because it's an older population base. Just to explain the reasons for that, Ingrid Barwick, the community we represent, it's reported to be the largest private housing development in Europe, and it's been continued to be developed since the early 1980s, and there's still potentially a 10-year build out for the community. So the direction of travel is there's more and more homes coming in there. So you can think of the infrastructure issues that causes, but certainly on the East Ward, the residents that moved into that community in its infancy, they've been very loyal, and certainly the core people that moved in have not moved within the community.
Can we just sort of go into that a little more? Because I think you raised a very interesting question there, which is about these modes of communication with councils, and in some ways, quite clearly, there's going to be variability due to the digital literacy skills of different councils. As far as the citizens are concerned, although you might have different levels of digital access and digital literacy, they may well want to have a more standardised framework of networks in which they can say, well, there are various avenues we can communicate with. Some of them are traditional, some of them are more new. Do you feel that there may be a need to standardise that, so that regardless of where you are within an authority, citizens have an awareness that they can contact a particular councillor in various ways, and it's regardless of the councillor in some sense? And if that is the case, how do you synchronise these different forms of communication with councillors so that citizens can understand that communicative relationship?
Do you want me to answer, or do you want to come?
No.
Okay. I agree. I think what there has been in my own authority, and I'm pleased for that, in the previous term I was cabinet member, and as part of that cabinet member, one of the areas that I had responsibility for was electoral services, democracy, and I also worked very closely with our head of comms. And at that time there was a lot of work done on the council's website, and the old website had no facility to allow Twitter handles to be displayed, Facebook links, even links to external websites. And the reason why I started using Twitter is because back in 2007, local authority members were offered a personal webpage on the local authority website, but it took 3 weeks to get it updated. And it was so prescriptive what could and could not be said. And I think, I haven't got time for this. I really haven't got time for this. So, the story of why I use Twitter is, it is quite short, but I thought, come across Twitter, and I thought, this is great, I can use this as a website. Yes, great if people wanted to use it as an app, but ultimately I could just advertise http://twitter.com/Councillor, and people who really wanted the benefit of an engagement would have to join up with Twitter, but basically people just wanted the short snippets of information that I want to put out there, just follow as a website. And that is why I used Twitter, because I can't wait 3 weeks to push something out that's happening in my ward tomorrow. And that is why I moved down to Twitter. So, and they're getting my local authority on board for a new generation of members that came on board at our last election, 2015, and I feel quite middle-aged in my authority. When I was first elected, I was second youngest, and I feel quite middle-aged. So the conversation that I had this morning with Spencer, you know, before we were setting up, just talking about life, and with Jill here, just coming in, I'm feeling quite middle-aged now, and I'm sure if I, you know, in the future,
you feel your pain.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad somebody does.
Don't speak for all.
Yeah, and younger members, such as the battle to get a laptop, it was Wi-Fi, and I'll be honest with you, you know, I remember the conversation I had with the monitoring officer back in 2008 when I said to him, David, I said, I'm going to start using a website called Twitter. So I explained to him, don't understand it, David, but it sounds really good. I said, I'm asking your permission to put the Twitter handle on the bottom of my signature, because I don't want any criticism. Oh, yeah. I said, and also, David, I said, that's Stockton Council's BlackBerry, this one's mine. I said, and it's being run from mine. I said, so any complaints that come in saying I'm using council property for political work, I said, I'm not, I'm using my phone. I see where you're coming from now, David. And sure enough, I won't name what particular group it was, but there was an issue that somebody tried to make and it was dismissed straight away. But there was a lot of members, all the members that I know around the country, and I will name them, Jane Cowan, Barry Kirby in Gloucestershire, no, she's no longer a member, but Jenny Clutton when she was at Lewisham, Steve Goodwin from Redcar in Cleveland, who was no longer a member. All the good members that were around the country that are using social media effectively use their own kit. Because they use their own kit, because it's not got the restrictions, all of the issues that local authority IT departments have to go around from central government for security. That, if to go back to your substantive questions, if we're going to get better serve our communities, the security issue needs to be looked at. I can understand why local authority IT departments have to be restrictive and protective, but it's hamstringing some creativity.
Do you find that, Councillor, this is a situation for you?
No. No, I think we've got a really, I think one of the great things about Kirklees is it's got a very progressive attitude to Twitter and things. It's, you know, it's very much from the office of court, as many of whom are here, sort of recognise that we're a political role, part of that political role is expressed through social media, and that's embraced. And council equipment is quite, it's not an issue, really at all. So,
and the reason, one of the reasons why, again, probably I'm here today, Chair, is that when I first started using Twitter, when I just had probably 3 or 4 followers, very, very quickly on Twitter I discovered somebody called Carl Whistlecraft, Spencer Wilson, Ken Eastwood, David Bundy, and a number of other names, all for the very reason that you just so eloquently pointed out to you, progressive members who see digital is the future, and that's where we got talking, and the rest is history.
I just want to go back to that question of synchronisation, because this is very useful, and we shall put this up on the website. Hopefully, if you can send that slide for followers of the Democracy Commission to view. We are becoming an online nation, and it's quite clearly it is generational. And you mentioned that younger councillors do this more instinctively because they are more digitised in their lives. There is, though, a sizable number of citizens that either are not particularly digital literate or aren't at all online. That's getting smaller and smaller, but they're there. They tend to be often older voters, and there is a contradiction here because those are the voters that tend to vote more.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if we have these old approaches that you discussed, these traditional approaches, let's say, where we sort of go doorsteps, we have meetings, we go out, and councillors do their work in their wards, which is far more personal, and then we have this digital world. How do we mesh them to make sure that it seems to citizens as if this is not two different forms of politics existing apart from each other?
There should never be. Nothing that we, certainly I, or even the group have ever done, even back to 2004, we've reached out to the online community, but it's never been a detriment to the offline community.
So are you replicating what you do online, offline?
Yes.
Is it a question that you are mirroring?
For example, the leaflet that's going around through 8,500 homes that we all deliver, we all know those letterboxes, that leaflet's going through every door online. So we're not replacing. Just to give you, I know Dominic Campbell's here later this week. I was at an event a few years ago, and I don't disagree with what Dominic has said. Dominic, it's probably right for the area that he's talking about in London, but it's certainly not right for potentially here. Certainly not right for Teesside, where we represent. But Dominic said something like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I understood where he was coming from. He believed in the next decade that election will be won and fought on social media, and there won't be any need to do any work on the doorsteps. Now that may be true in London, where you've got such a high degree.
Sounds like the paperless office that was promised in the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly. That is probably true in London, and no disrespect to Dominic. I've got a lot of time for the work that Future Gov do, but I don't think that model yet is fit for the whole country. Not for a very long time. So certainly from 2004 and still to today, everything that we do online is goes offline, and online is seen as an extension to what we do offline. If you look at the world that way, and one of the stats that I've picked up at the moment, you have to excuse me, but I'm still getting used to very focal length glasses. Where is it? Anyway, grandparents are the fastest growing demographic on Twitter. I know that. My 80-year-old mother-in-law loves Twitter. She absolutely loves Twitter, and I have no doubt that today she'll be following what I'm doing on Twitter. She doesn't post, but she likes to read. In my day job, when I first went into the job that I do outside of politics in 2003, Yahoo Messenger, MSN Messenger was the thing at the time for the teenagers, the younger adults. It's not now, it's Facebook. However, now that grandparents are now going on Facebook, that's upsetting and unnerving children. So if they want to have a little chat with the friends without grandparents knowing, because mum and dad are still not savvy enough to use Facebook as well, but grandparents have got the time to work it out, they're now reverting back to the MSNs of the world, and this, obviously now being replaced as Snapchat, which I'm not a lover of for a number of reasons. But it's just to be aware of that, and certainly again in my day job, I've seen this shift in the older generation now, because they've got the time, they've got the technology becoming much more intuitive thanks to Apple. And the Android operating systems become such more intuitive. They've got the time to. As
technology becomes easier, they become
much easier. And so yes, the older generation is now embracing technology. So the digital native, digital inheritance. Jill and I are at that age where we remember the BBC Bees going into school.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So we the products of the the techie age.
Yeah.
But while I still remain a member, I will never ever differentiate between offline and online. They'll both be said. Jerry, you recall a comment I made when I came up here in the summer to do some training. Very few people write to me. Somebody did a couple of weeks ago. They've had now she did, in fairness, in a letter that she pushed through my door. My husband's email address is here, which she could use.
Yeah.
I replied to her husband's email because I thought that to me, I read that as an invitation. I could reply to her via email, but I put a copy of that email in an envelope back through the front door. Because she's been good enough to correspond to me in writing, I've been good enough to respond the way that Sandra she suggested, but also via into a front door, via a letter. Again, if somebody phones me, very, very few phone calls. I generally don't know why I have a landline, but I do for the odd few people who are still on that site, mainly. They still want to ring me. They don't want the mobile because they want an 01642 number to ring.
Which is totally different from, obviously, with mine being the older ward.
Yeah.
We've all got a council line. Mine never stops because I've got the older generation on my side who like to speak to somebody in person. I do get emails, but I get letters through the door. I get people knocking on the door, and I get the majority of my work through.
There's sort of a transition at the moment.
Exactly.
We're moving from one to another.
Because we've got the older ward, but it's exactly the same as what David says. Because of the amount of houses that are still getting built in Ingleby, even though I'm on the older ward, I still have a lot of young people moving into all the new houses and all the new flats. So we've got to go from the offline to the online, and as David says, everything that we put out on leaflet form goes on our website. We pick a lot of stuff up from the Gazette, our local newspaper. So then we put links to everything. So if they want to go online and they don't want to read a newspaper, they can still get the main stories of our wards through onto our social media. So we try and tie everything in together.
It's an interesting point that there are different levels of literacy in different wards, and different wards have different sort of format. I'd like to throw out some questions over to the councillors.
I mean, it's really brilliant what you're doing. I think one thing we need to do is, when we talk about community engagement, is what do we want to achieve by engaging with the community, what do we want to find out, and that, like that thing about councils going on, and how various technologies help to do that, and actually when you need to be doing face-to-face. I think that's one thing we need to do. So I like your Skype, the idea you talked about Skype surgeons, I'm going to do that. I'll just start doing Skype seminar and just have faces, because I prefer doing face-to-face. So that would suit me rather than Twitter. I think it's looking at the problems you've engaged. It is only positive, but the test is where doesn't it work to do what we need to do. I mean, I've spent 10-15 minutes with an elderly resident trying to use online. Well, I ended up doing it online. She was trying to use the phone system, which was the digital thing. So probably issues, maybe it's not worked, and how we get around that.
From a personal experience, I found local authority websites more helpful than .gov.uk than central government websites. It's the odd few times where you've had a query from a resident that it's actually a more central government issue than a local government issue.
Central government, it's not user-friendly.
Some local authority websites, my own I think is very good. Our own council I think is very, very good. It's digital, it's actually an online offer, and it's online forms. We have a call centre for what we would call our the bread and butter type of it, your street waste, your household goods. That we have a dedicated call centre for that. Everything else would then go through the main council switchboard.
Say the online form doesn't work. On odd occasion doesn't work. How well does the council deal with that, or the systems around it for picking it?
If there's a system around it, if there was, for example, I don't think I've ever experienced an online form that is filled on me. What I would tend to do is, if I had an issue, I would tend just to email the service through directly, or if, for example, I have become aware, for example, a street light that a resident has reported and have given me the reference number that the system has generated, and then 10 days later it's still broken, and provided they've given me that reference number, I went back through to the authority and said, this is the reference number for the street light that's been reported on Blair Avenue on what date, you know what the fault, you know what the delay is, and 9 times out of 10 the service will come back will be there's an underground problem and NEDL needs to come out and rectify it. Where I think the local authority falls down on is it would be better as customer service if those forms could then automatically trigger back through a response to the customer to prevent that call or contact to the member saying, I reported a street light 10 days ago to the local authority. They haven't fixed it. They're useless. Well, actually, they're not useless. It's because 9 times out of 10,
that could have had
in
an automatic response.
in our estate, we know that where there's still large pockets of unadopted land, it's not on the local authority's gift. The street lights that are in the local authority here, sometimes there can be external issues, and I just think that in some they need to be a little bit cuter or find a way around. They're very good at reporting in, but not very good at reporting back. And I think that's where it needs to happen. Now, I must admit, my neighbour, we had this conversation last week, Jill and I, when we had our group leaders meet with one of the officers about, we use White Hessian sauce for our plastics and cardboard and cans. And again, anybody knows I'm even, my can bank's quite heavy with Diet Coke cans. And, and one of my neighbours, when I was putting my waste out a couple of months last month, said to me, literally Lisa opposite me, David, any chance we can get another one of them white bags? She said, we put a load of waste out, we recycle all sorts. And I said, oh yeah, I said, I'll do it for you. I said, I'll request one for you, Lisa. And actually, I did actually fill it online form in. And as soon as I got a form in, I just printed it out and I just popped through the door next day. And I just put a note on the bottom and said, Lisa, let me know if there's any problems. And on Sunday I was like, got the bag, great, no problems. But even with that one, what would I think would have been good was a message come out like Amazon, because I think the world has now seen Amazon as the market leader on ordering and processing. At the end of the day, it's a process-driven environment, and I don't think local authorities or the suppliers of systems for local authorities have cracked that customer engagement in that cycle. They've not cracked that, and that's where I would think, such as the street light, if there's a delay because of a supplier, then surely a supplier could get a system back and say, well, that on Flare, for example, one of the biggest suppliers to local authority for that type of work, tick in the box, they could say delay because of waiting for an EDL or electrical supply to resolve the problem. Tick in that box, well, surely the system then could be cute enough to say, right, that's been identified as the problem. Why can't it automatically send a message back to say that's the delay? Amazon can do it. I sent something back to Amazon in the summer. I got an email while I was on holiday saying, thanks for your return, your credit's been sent back to your credit card.
It's just about improving that frequency
it's
and quality.
Improving that quality. Residents are expecting more and more and more, and we know there's less and less and less money. So if you can just take even 1 or 2 of those steps out to help us on the ground, that we don't know why the street light on Blair Avenue is still down after 10 days. Again, it just takes a step out of the way, and it's helpful to us. Even if to a point that we could get access to just the basic information on Flare or other systems that are about the bread and butter type of information.
That's useful, thank you.
Just look at the digital divide from the Tinder Foundation here. There's a few things which sort of occur to me, and one of which is, and it came up recently when we had people dropping off waste at tip sites because they've got to register online, they've got to put their details in. And so I went to a number of people who were online, generally elderly people who were online. And so, in many categories, they'd be on this side of the digital divide. They had, they had no clue. They had all the kits. It's all the gear.
Probably don't
No
see
idea.
it.
So there was so the role of us as councillors was to go out and see a number of folks and help them with their tablets. So the divide may be greater than we think. Is the there, and so the ongoing work of the Tinder Foundation in terms of doing this, and the role in it is I think important. The other thing, looking at this, I was thinking that we could do one of these for councillors.
Yeah,
because I'd be interested to know about the digital divide in councils, because I know about one or two who are on the far end. You know, still chisels and slate and stuff, and getting their emails printed off and sent out. There are no
won't name any names,
but we
know
know exactly who they are. And so there's all that.
I will laugh, we won't name them.
Yeah, they're all there, and you'll think, 5-10 years time that won't be happening. So I think there's a job here which might be an LGA job. It might be something with the Tinder Foundation, which looks at local government and measures progress and sees how we're going forward. So councils on that basis, but also councillors, and see where we're going. So I think that's one question I'd like to ask you is about, and this is a particular enthusiasm of mine, which is blogs. And I very much think there's sometimes the things we do at Facebook and Twitter level, much as we love them, are fairly shallow by their nature in approach. And that if we want digital depth, and so people who want to dig into issues, they want to see about motivations for voting in certain ways and things, then blogs are actually quite an important thing, because they're a window into the mind of decision makers. I think there's a particular thing there, and I sometimes whimsically think that that when I'm putting my stuff down in electronic format, it could be there for years to come. It's a chronicle. I think politicians need to regard blogs as chronicles of their thoughts and actions. So I'm just interested to know what you do. Do you do anything particular with blogs and how you approach them?
Facebook, to me, is your chronicle, and I think my experience of blogs, I've got a stat here, there's 200 million blogs on the web. Over a third of them are political support, a political campaign or an issue.
Okay.
And I'll just put on there, it's moved on from the word of mouth to the word of mouth to the world of mouth. 30 of those 200 million blogs, 34% of them apparently, and the stats from this have come from the website. I've forwarded the URL at the end. 34% of those blogs are active with regular contributions, whereas Facebook engagement's in excess of 80%. And blogs seem to have fallen by the wayside in addition to in preference to social media in recent years.
Is that due to size, due to digestibility?
I think it's people's personal preference on platform.
Yeah.
The platform of social media is in front of them. To
It's
go
all
to a blog, then they need to use. Fair enough. Now, blog was owned by Gmail, so you would use your Gmail address to sign in to reply to a blog. But people see it as a different medium.
Do you think that's indicative of the fact that something like and Facebook is only one of multiple platform users, others are available?
Yes.
That it is the fact that the personal, the public, the political, all these things come together often on one site, so it's about the ease in which you can filter those various strands.
See, just to rewind back to Councillor Cooper's question, back in 2013 when the LGIU awarded me the grand title of Online Council of the Year, one of the names I mentioned a little while ago was Ken Eastwood, and I worked with Ken to develop an online blog for members. And I have actually a blog integrated into my own website presence for myself. Now, I put my hands up, I posted 2 blogs onto that, and even those 2 blogs at the time that were appropriate at the time and relevant, the currency was there, it got no engagement for me. The engagement when I put the URL onto Facebook and Twitter ballooned. Yeah, but it was there, and I agree with you. It's the chronography. For me, blogs have not done it for me.
But you can use both,
and they can be done, and they both can be done. And some members are doing them very, very successfully.
I think. I mean, I look at it as part because it might be a press release. So you put a press release on the blog. Just because you're going to do a press release, stick it on a blog. It could be just photographs. Stick it on a blog. I mean, I think the fact that you've always got to integrate it with your social media. You've always got to do that. And so I'll get anywhere between 150, 200 to 900 for a particularly successful one. But it's always about the numbers. Sometimes it's about making sure that there is
I agree.
a narrative.
I agree. There are some members that's done some very, very good blogs. Neighbouring Council Bradford, Simon Cook. Is a blog that I do read. He put some interesting thoughts out there to provoke discussions, let's say. But yeah, Simon's is one of the blogs that I do read, and I'm sure he'd be thrilled to hear this, that I do actually read. But yeah, some members are more, from my point of view, to sit down and write a blog, I think at the end of the day, get it out there. But that's me. Everybody, every one of us is different.
Sure.
Every one of us is different, and that's what. Again, we went back to that interview I did with John back in February. Everyone is different. People need to use the mediums that they feel comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Gemma, do you want to
Thank you. One of the pieces of information we were given is that the age group of 16 to 24-year-olds typically spending 5 hours a day on a smartphone or tablet. Possibly an impossible question, because when you actually look into the analytics of Twitter, it's not broken down into age category. But do you have any feeling or feedback on whether you're actually reaching those kind of age groups?
I would agree with you. Again, the link that I'm going to send to the chair, the 50% of the world's population on Facebook is under 30. Again, the demographics in my own ward, the people who contact me from social media, are in the age range of certainly under 35s. The first-time voters or the non-voters, which are the people that I'm wanting to engage with and tap into.
Do you mind if I supplement? Because I think Gemma's raising a very interesting question, because a lot of my work is with young people and trying to get involved in it. And research suggests that young people are doing politics differently
and doing it online.
And in a way, that sort of notion, what Gemma's introducing here about connectedness, is linked to issues of decision making, of bringing young people in, and often the criticism is that local councils, as with national parliaments, are very poor at engaging with young people, but also getting their views in and responding to. Have you got any evidence that using social media has helped you?
When I was cabinet member, I had the privilege of working with Stockton as member of the Youth Parliament.
Right.
And I've worked with 3 of them. 2 of them actually come from our ward. Matthew Wilson was our first member of the Youth Parliament. And God bless Matthew. Matthew used to Skype me every Sunday with generally to have issues that he wanted to raise about breakdowns. And he had very, very good in. But I always spent about half an hour with him every Sunday for a guarantee he would contact me.
That sounds quite labour intensive.
But that Matthew was worth it because he's gone on to do big and good things. He's now in his 20s. He's now approaching his 20s. Beg your pardon, I'm aging him there. He's at London School of Economics, and he's doing really well. He's degree in PPA, so I wish him very well on that. You won't have an issue with me saying this. Matthew stood for re-election, and he lost his re-election. I said to Matthew, I said, you need to read. I said, your campaign a bit more on social media. I said, because you're the age profile, and if we rewind back to the conversation from Dominic, I said a few minutes ago, when those people then get into their 20s, into the 30s, the world of engagement on the doorsteps would have moved on drastically. I said, so now, I said, you need to get your foot in the door of where election is going to be won in the future, which is on social media. No. I said, well, that's my feeling. He went, are you sure? I went, yeah. I said, I think you need to have a bit of a profile on Facebook. I said, on Twitter. I said, you can quite easily get yourself a a website, just using Blogger. I said, just to illustrate what you've achieved over your term. Didn't do that. What he done was a 200-word bio that went into an election address for all the other candidates. They put their 200-page bio on a sheet of paper and went into all the schools that took part in the elections, alongside their Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Blogger profiles, so that beyond those 200 words they can reach out, and the people who got the highest engagement rate were those using Facebook and Twitter. So election returns.
I'm just going to push that on
Facebook and Twitter.
Because I think that is, it's a very good example about how you can communicate with people.
Yeah.
But that seems to be very much about pushing a message out.
Yeah.
What's sort of coming out in the research about young people's digital habits is that they're actually making decisions.
Yes.
And I wonder if you've got examples of how you can get young people into that decision-making process.
The two Jessicas that replaced Matthew.
Right.
Again, they come from our ward. Jessica Bletch and Jessica Phillips is our current NYP. I'm sure it's Phillips, surname. She's our current NYP. Certainly, Jessica Phillips is certainly doing a lot of engagement, a lot of consultations, talking to a lot of young people on social media. Before she goes to the British Youth Council, the annual event in Parliament that they go to, and they're doing those debates online in forums.
How are councillors doing that? Because that's interesting. That your youth councillors are obviously very adept at doing that. But I think the disparity is sometimes is that the full council isn't particularly good at reaching down into that demographic to a certain extent, because many of them don't vote, so they don't think about them as priority citizens in an electoral sense. Do you have any examples about how how councillors are reaching down to that demographic?
Beyond, I've explained what we do into our ward, and across the borough, and across. I can give you some very good examples of names of members that are doing that. Jane Cowan, certainly over in Wales, is a very good member that is reaching out into the local borough, into the ward, like ourselves. She will be a good example to view her particular profiles, and also as well the way in which, like me, they're using different social media platforms for different ways to sell the same message. So even down to LinkedIn, how you would put the same message on LinkedIn is completely different to how you put it on Facebook, because you're engaging with a different audience. LinkedIn will be very, very professional. Facebook, you could put out just a general message because you're reaching a different audience.
To change the tone and structure of the message.
Where our younger people, they concentrate purely on Facebook and Twitter, they're having that long, protracted extension. There's not many members like us having those long conversations. We have used SurveyMonkey in the past, and we will use SurveyMonkey in the future. But again, that wouldn't replace a paper questionnaire that we put on the door. And I wouldn't want to detach doing anything on digital, because I want to be inclusive.
So it's that synchronisation.
I want to be inclusive. For our younger people, I'm conscious as well that to them that they have no monies. Our people that stand for British Youth Council, I don't believe the British Youth have many funding to actually do any campaigns on the ground. I may be wrong.
No, it's not.
So the young people will find, like a lot of grassroots campaigns will use tools that are free and available to them to get the message out to the mass market. But I think us as ward members need to be inclusive and make sure that we reach everybody both offline and online.
Yeah, that's very useful. Thank you.
We'll just explain. I mean, Andrew might.
Well, just thinking about particularly about young people, and when a tweet or a Facebook post is successful, it generally involves memes or video content and those sort of things. So when it is actually thinking imaginatively about what it is that might make them retweet it, what it is that might make them post it to their friends or whatever, and own it.
It's got to be. just got a little snapshot in, like when I was doing my first year of my MBA back at Teesside Uni in the mid-90s. You know, the 4 Ps of marketing was the one that was pushed out as being the one that, you know, the product, place, price and promotion doesn't exist now. It's the 3 Cs, the digital, creating, curating, connecting and culture. And if you can hit all of those 4, then you've got a tweet or a source of Facebook post that will go out to the mass market. A very snappy. I don't use Vine. What I have done in the past, I've used Instagram. Very short, snappy video clips. The reason why I like Instagram is Instagram fits in nicely to put down content into Twitter and into Facebook. So that's why I've stuck with Instagram. And that will give me up to 30 seconds of video content that I could push out to try and engage. Periscope is one that I think will be... It's not boomed as much in this country as it has in America as yet, I don't feel. But Periscope is one that I think will be the game changer, particularly in local democracy in the coming years.
Bubbling under the surface.
It is bubbling under the surface. The one thing I do like with Periscope is it does give you that footage that you can upload then to YouTube, which is good. YouTube is a very good one. I've got to think that for every minute of the day there's 114 hours of video content uploaded to YouTube in the world. Every minute of the day. So, and YouTube is the second largest search website after Google. Facebook is third.
Let's look at just about getting information, engaging with the community. So, I mean, I know you've got major planning issues. So, how might you use some of the digital media or the other interactions to get? So, there's a major planning application coming in, and you want to find out the views of local communities, or you want to put into the planning process. How does digital?
We've had some grassroots campaigns with one particular application in the other ward, haven't we? More than one, haven't we? More than one. Where an ongoing, where Facebook forms have been used by local community activists to ease residents to make the views known, whether it be for or against. So you've had somebody who has spent the time to just one of the things that I find depressing as a ward councillor is, and I will use the phrase here of a gentleman called Mike McGraver. Mike is a musician, an artist, very locally known in Stockton, and we'll all know Duff Productions, the producers of Great British Bake Off and Benefit Street. Benefit Street ended up in Stockton a couple of years ago, and Mike works with local authority to put on a very good annual celebration of when our Christmas lights come on. We had a bit of an issue in Stockton a couple of years ago when the High Street was receiving a £38 million refurbishment, and this particular year we knew, it was on cabinet at the time, that the High Street would have no decorations in it. And what happened, the contractors put a right Christmas tree in the High Street. They thought they were doing good, but it backfired. They put a white Christmas tree in the High Street. It received national media attention, and it was one of these fibre optic Christmas trees. And Stockton folk, quite traditional, and expected to see their 12-foot high traditional Christmas tree. So you can imagine where that went. And Mike had put something on social media, a little poem about this particular disaster. And I always remember his bottom line: when the mourners come, the mourners mourn. Because they're very good at mourning, but they won't do anything about it. And that phrase sticks in my mind. To think, how can we overcome that opportunity of people being negative? So we had a community, we had somebody in the community that felicitated for ease, so that nobody can say, I don't have time to write a letter or write an email to the local authority. I didn't know who to write to. So somebody used a Google form to basically say, right, what's your address? It's already populated who it's going to. It's already populated the planning reference. What's your main principle? Are you for or against? For, right. List a few reasons why you're for. You're against, right. List a few reasons it's against.
The response.
So, the beginning and the end of the letter was pre-populated. How people went for or against was up to them, and all they had to do was just think of a couple of lines to into this Google form that, as soon as they pressed send, went straight to the local authority.
So obviously people, it's easy to say I don't like it's then about why. Actually, this is the planning, these are some of the planning issues around it. What is your view on that?
Now, that particular campaign, the two residents, Katia and Peter, I remember one morning just nipping out to the local shop in Gills Ward. Tesco's is in my ward, but I bypassed Tesco's, the local shop. And I went out for morning paper, and here's Peter and Katia canvassing with a clipboard, because to listen to what we said, don't just stick with that side, you've got to stick with that side as well. And here they are, talking to people, engaging with them with a clipboard and going, look, this is our argument. Not, you know, if you thought it great, fine, that's your wish. If you're against it, you know,
so
just make a
some of the other stuff is about how we use the platforms to share, to get the information that we need to do.
But it's
a bit of extra work. Around
it is a bit of extra work, but to me, I'm always thinking, the worst thing to me is what I didn't know how to raise it. It's trying to turn that negative round, and that phrase from that phrase will always stick in my mind, I think, for life. It's how to turn that negative into the positive. And if you get people to use the Google campaign, the Google Docs, just to get information out there.
Is that Google or Facebook? Did you say Facebook?
Google Docs. It's open source software, so it's easy to edit and put out there. And also as well, it fits in lovely with Blogger. And the reason it fits in lovely with Blogger is because it's owned by Google.
One of the criticisms of the expansion implementation is exactly what you suggest there, which is that at its best, it can encourage a huge amount of engagement and response. And that can not only produce more work for councils, but also provides challenges of trying to aggregate and in some ways evaluate that feedback into something which is coherent and can be blended into the policy-making process and governance within local authorities. And I wonder if, from your own experiences, you might want to make a comment about that potential issue. And how do you bring that kind of engagement into the wider process of government in the local authority, in the full council itself?
Okay. Again, you know, we have not in our ward have had issues. Petitions have been presented to the local authority. We have not been had an issue in our ward where petition, certainly in the. Yes, we have. We had a petition. Just correct that. Sorry. I'll answer it in two parts. We've not had an issue to take a petition to the local authority in recent years that has forced a digital campaign. There has been 3 petitions presented to my local authority in the last couple of years. One of which did actually trigger over 2,000 response for debate in council via the internet. There was a petition actually logged on the local authority website. So that then triggered a full council debate, 30 minutes for the lead petitioner to say their side, the council to respond. So that happened for another part of the Stockton community. I've completely forgot about it. Back in 2007, one of my colleagues, we were acutely short of secondary school places, weren't we? And when I say we literally door-knocked every home in our community, we door-knocked every home in our community. And if they weren't in, we went back. And we door-knocked every home for canvass and opinion for a secondary school for our community. And that paper petition, I know because I carried one of the boxes.
So did I.
You know, it was huge, wasn't it? It was huge. On a blowy day, one of us tripped, or maybe Ken. You had 3 boxes, that was it. One of us a trip. We nearly lost some of the petitions because the boxes had come off, and that paper petition in those 3 boxes was served on the council, asking under the form of BSF process for additional secondary places for our community. That petition also in turn was then presented by our former MP in Parliament in its paper form.
Yeah.
I seem to recall, I may be wrong, but I think at the time, I think Parliament were not accepting digital petitions. So, again, the passage of time, I can't remember the full explanation, but I seem to believe that the only reason we'd done that on paper at the time was we wanted to get on every home, so that we could confidently say that we have canvassed every home in Inglebarwick, as we did in 2005 and subsequent elections. This is the response that we got from homes. There's your 3 boxes to show that these are people that are demanding additional secondary places in our community. But in terms of fast forward into the council, yes, there has been petitions presented. One of recent did actually hit over that 2,000 trigger point that triggered a debate in council. There's been some other petitions that have been on the council's website that haven't attracted very many signatures. They've been out there, have done the work out in the community, such as the Catties and the people, the P to have by, as well as being online with a Google, to say that we've got a Google form. But excuse me, let's also have some signatures on some papers or some support on paper. Perhaps not, but again, that's not our ward. I would not like to comment on the success or failure of those petitions because they're not in our area.
Do you think the digital democracies and use of social media itself has enhanced your roles as community leaders? And if so, in what ways has it allowed you to adopt that leadership role, which is an integral part of the councillor's wider sort of role within their communities?
I'm going to let you say mine way today. Is there anything you want to say before I say mine?
I think we need to reach the wider audience, and I think by doing what we're doing and getting all the forms out there to everybody, it's engaging a lot more people coming in, and I think it's something that I think we successfully do. We do everything that we can do possible to be able to reach as many people as possible. And I don't think, especially our group, I wouldn't like to about other groups, but especially our group, and especially through David doing all the digital stuff, we try and put every form possible going to reach the wider people, and so the members of the public can then reach us, whether it be through phones, letters, emails, blogs, Facebook, web pages, you name it. We try and get it. So, and I think it has made us stronger in our community because
it's raised your profile.
It has upped our profile because people know. I mean, we've got a ward surgery tonight, so we do the face-to-face, we do all the online stuff, and I think people know that if they want a counsellor, regardless of whichever ward that we're on, people will contact us and say, you're a counsellor for my ward, can you do whatever, and then we'll sort it all out. But they know how accessible we are, and I think that's helped in our leadership and taking us forward with our community, and it's made us as strong as what we are at the moment.
Thank you.
I was actually hoping to get away from a meeting about to Mighton Way, which is the vein of our lives at the moment. Mighton Way is a major infrastructure project going on in our community at the moment, and I'm sure any officers watching this footage from Stockton at the moment will be cringing, thinking, what am I going to say here? But Mighton Way, for dual carriageway, has caused us an awful lot of heartache and issues with infrastructure damage, with utility damage. And social media has been exceptionally helpful to us, and in fairness, I've got to say to the local authority and its contractors, to whenever's occurred in getting authoritative information out quickly. And that is important authoritative information, such as Easter, Monday, Thursday, contractors had gone through a major gas pipe in the estate, which took until Easter Saturday to repair because of a huge diversion around the estate. We got information out through social media. A friend of mine doesn't live too far from Jill. She sent me a text message on the Thursday saying, "David, just to let you know, there's a gas leak in the ward." She said, I'm off of it now till the Tuesday to Cumbria. I'm on holiday. Enjoy sorting out. But while she's away, messages gone out that affected the whole of the estate. Back in the summer, again, contractor damage. Only took out 1,200 telephone lines to the community. You may think that, including ours, may think that would have stopped us from being able to communicate.
It didn't.
It didn't. We got information out there. Even to people who were not able to have the home phone, they still got information out because we're using 3G and 4G. So being able to show a leadership role and putting out authoritative information. I'm just going to be a bit sensitive on this issue as well, because this was quite sensitive a few years ago where we had a particular tragedy in the estate and a couple of people tried to make claims that were completely inappropriate, which were squashed quite quickly by myself. We saw it through social media. The family involved in that incident were very grateful for how it was handled by ward councillors in squashing some quite upsetting information that was circulating on the internet, with people just looking at the incident and jumped to conclusions inappropriately. And we took the stance of a leadership role and said, this is the situation, this is what's going to happen, move on.
No, that's very useful, thank you.
Yeah, two points. One of my experiences of Facebook has been that, particularly with local signs, there's one that relates to about half my ward, it's very easy for the rumour mill to start.
Yeah.
And stories get around which really drive me up the wall.
Yeah.
If I read them at 10 o'clock at night, I've physically got to hold myself back with don't react till tomorrow morning.
You have them.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, obviously the increased interest the increased contract that you've developed, has that been illustrated in the turnout in elections? And have you any evidence to show that the profile of people actually voting is getting younger?
Do you want to? Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. That one of your part of your question that you've asked was something that I've just answered previously about how you take that community leadership role in handling your contentious, quite personal situations. And I've not met a local authority member yet who has not come across some of these sites that exist from the admins who nobody knows about that push out information that's not appropriate. We took the position that we'll continue just pushing out authoritative information. Yeah. We have seen our numbers increase in terms of on our reach and people using our site for authoritative information. I mentioned in the last question there, Might and Way. I know for a fact that the Riva North East use our social media page. Now this is quite detrimental, this. They use our social media pages to know what's happening with those infrastructure works in the community, because they can rely on our information because we're the ones that are pushing it out faster than anybody else and ahead of the local authority. Our own local
just
authority.
about you can network with them.
Now those, we have built up relationships with organisations that are in our community that are serving our residents who we are sharing information, and they know where they can find authoritative information from. And those who are seeking to discredit that, the best thing to do is ignore them. And it can make you ill. It seriously can. Now I know Simon Cook, I've mentioned him a couple of moments ago. Simon Cook's view on people who harass on social media, ignore them, which was what I said back in July. The mute button on Twitter was fantastic. They soon go away. They still think they're contacting. Yeah, they're not. They're talking to themselves. The mute button works fantastic. That's what I think actually Facebook needs, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. That's what I think Facebook needs. But people, if you take that leadership role and take them all high down, ignore them. Push out your information, quote down yourselves, and what we're starting to do is quote our partner agencies, if we wanted to use that word, or follow these folks as well. Use these websites. Those that seek to discredit you, they just talk that they're people who to reach to is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. In terms of turnout at elections,
before we go on to that, it begs the question: what about the relationship then with partner agencies like the police, for example? Yeah, and there's a big move. I don't want to make this parochial, but there's a lot of people on Facebook in my ward who are saying, if two youths are seen together standing at the corner of the street, they're dealing drugs, which is patently wrong. Okay, and it's all the police's fault because they never do anything. They should be up there arresting them for talking to each other at the end of the street. And the police are getting harangued over it as well. Now, I don't see anything, the local police inspector going on Facebook and trying to put the record straight.
I can't comment on West Yorkshire Police, but what I can comment on is Cleveland Police. And we will only share information that either appears on Cleveland Police Facebook page, Cleveland Fire Brigade, or Thornaby and Barrack Nibble Policing Team, which are the teams that share that service our area. So any sensationalised claims, of which I've seen one in the last week, which was completely absurd, didn't happen. Absolutely did not happen. The claim that was made, I didn't push that out. If I did, there would have been something seriously wrong. So we will only share information from those people, and that certainly those that they know that we will only share something. Once it's appeared on their site, we know that they must have a great deal of confidence in saying the police wouldn't post anything out that is misinformation. So in terms of, yes, we too have the same type of local issues where we've got people claiming that X, Y and Z is happening, when in reality it's somebody that's nipping outside for a cigarette because they don't want to actually smoke in the apartment block of the girlfriend's apartment, because she can't exactly smoke in the entrance hall because of smoke alarms, so he goes outside and has a cigarette and he pretends to be an alleged peeping Tom. Okay, so we've had those type of situations, and the police are annoyed with them. You have partner agencies who are annoyed with them, and the best way to deal with them is ignore. Take the moral high ground and just push out what is factual, correct information. Give them no oxygen, and their client base shrinks.
It's what we call our keyboard warriors, isn't it? And your client base does shrink, and it ends up being the same 10, 20 people who are just banging on about the same subject over and over, and you think, oh, so-and-so's happened and they've said this, and it's the same people just circulating the same garbage around. So it's not going out to the wider masses, it's just the same.
And engaging gives them access to your followers and things.
Of course it does.
So the trolls will try and engage you.
There's also opportunity, because Sim talking about when we went back about council not feeding back quickly. The police, do react to stuff, And actually, but what the trouble is, when they come and do something, there's not always that quick feedback.
Yeah.
Particularly if there's legal action taken, it'd be months down the line. But there's other things where we were out on, the estate, we did this, and they can anonymise it or anything, but just to know that.
Nobody ever sees it.
Sorry?
Nobody ever sees it.
No, but I think...
Yeah, exactly, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but it's even... Well, the other thing to do with Twitter is actually they can take a picture of themselves on the estate, next to a street sign if they need to. We were out on this doing our job. And actually, it's just it's that evidential based thing, isn't it? And actually, it's
just rewinding back to your point about our just correctly our keyboard warriors. I have some bizarre tendency to pick out the common spelling mistakes, the common grammar mistakes, and you think, Mr. X is now Mr. Y. Yeah. It's the same complaint, just recycled in a slightly different way, but the common spelling mistakes are still there. So the same person just rebranding themselves as something else.
I find it quite useful when you have something quite confrontational, is to say, to put it out to I'd like to meet you to talk to you about this issue. Because the whole thing about this, it's like people in cars, isn't it? People in cars feel that they can do road rage in the way that they can't do when they're not protected by this mental body, and so people feel protected when they're doing this, don't they? So meeting them face to face means that you have a proper dialogue. Now. So I find that quite a useful tactic.
And 9 times out of 10,
I'd like to talk to you about
begins with I have been told that.
Right. I think we shall move on, if you don't mind. This is turning more into a sort of councillor sort of therapy session.
But what's the point about whether it's been manifested in election?
I'm afraid we can't move on to anything because unfortunately we've run out of time. The witching hour is here, and because we have another evidence session following straight on, I'm afraid we're going to have to be told. That said, I'm sure that both Julian and David would be very open if we could think about any questions that we haven't worked through this morning in the session. We could certainly offer them. Maybe it could be kind
email them.
Well, we could Twitter you, we could Facebook you, we could use multiple platforms. That one is very true.
In a short answer to the gentleman's question, yes. In a short answer, yes. To increase force participation, and for the younger audiences, yes.
I think there certainly is evidence to suggest that is the case. One of the things that we're very keen in the Democracy Commission to be is to be a conversation, and I think many of the things that you do in the digital space indicates that you are very much of that deliberative approach to your politics. I think you should be commended for that. And in terms of what we do, we're now going to go forward in the next month and carry on with our inquiries, and then we're going to be locked away by Carl and his team into a dark room until the white smoke emerges and we've made some decisions. We're going to draw up a draft report with some recommendations. We want all our stakeholders, all our contributors to the inquiry to continue to be part of this conversation, and if you'd be so kind as to both accept that we will send you a draft report and maybe feedback. We want to make sure that we've captured the huge amount that you discussed this morning accurately, and that we've drawn on your thoughts in a way which you think accurately represents the way you view this. And also that we think, as far as a soundboarding exercise, that it will help us improve before we then go on in the new year to serve the report to both full council here and to Kirklees, but also to engage on a national basis and across the region with other policymakers, politicians, and groups that are interested in this. Speaking personally, as someone not directly engaged with the Kirklees Council, I think that it is important work. I think there has been an overlook of the impact of various things on local democracy. There's been a focus on other forms of democracy. And in that sense, we'd just like to thank you on behalf of the Commission and the Commissioners and the officers here in the room for your time this morning and for your enthusiastic engagement in the work we're doing. We're very grateful. I'm sure that we'll see you not in Westminster in February. I look forward to that myself then. Just for the moment, Gillian, thank you very much.